Now let us see how can you actually access Llama 2 models. So for accessing Llama 2 models, you basically have three different options. One is using the hosted API service, another one is using the self-configured cloud, and the third one is hosted on your own computer. So what you can do is you can download the Llama 2 7 billion parameters 4-bit model. Now this 4-bit model is basically a quantized model, right? Where you decrease the size of each of the values which are saved, right? The model weights. You decrease the size of them. Usually they are trained on 13 bits, but you can actually reduce the size, basically the precision of these saved values from 32 bits and reduce the size of it by reducing the precision and saving it in 4 bits. This actually does impact the performance, but because it is such a huge model and the impact is not that much, the impact is negligible. So that is why we can use a 4-bit model, right? And again, you have the option to use 7 billion, 13 billion, or 70 billion parameters model. So that is completely up to you. You have to actually decide which model size you want to go for, right? Now, apart from that, we have certain inference configuration parameters. Now, because when you will be making use of the model, when you will be prompting the model, there are certain criteria which impact how you get the result. Okay, one thing would be your system configuration, basically the system value which you're providing. There is a value related to system, which is basically a rule which you provide to your model. This rule could be like, you need to talk in a formal tone, you need to talk like Shakespeare, you need to give sarcastic answers, or you need to give funny answers. So this is the system rule which you define. Apart from that, there is a prompt which you will be giving. This prompt will basically give it the task which it needs to perform. And thirdly, these are the different inference configuration parameters which you will be providing to your Llama model. Okay, these parameters are basically max new token, sample k-top, sample top p, temperature, etc. So there are several different configuration parameters present. Now let us see what these are. Now the first one is basically the max new token length, which is basically setting the maximum number of words the LLM can generate in response to your prompt. Okay, so basically imagine it as a word limit. Okay, for example, if you set the max new token to 50, so the LLM will stop generating the text after creating 50 new words. Okay, so basically if you are generating say 100 words, now it will not generate 100 words for you, because these 100 words will have to be generated following your prompt length. Okay, so basically the max new token length is basically the maximum number of tokens which are generated, and this will be concatenated to the context which you will provide, concatenated to the prompt which you will be providing. Okay, so basically this will be useful in controlling the length of the poem, emails, or short stories which you are writing. Okay, so let's say you have a prompt of 50 words or 50 tokens, and you say that it can generate 250 tokens only in the max new token limit. Then it will mean that 50 tokens which you gave in the prompt and 200 new tokens can be generated. That's it. That is the word limit which you're defining. Okay, so this is the purpose of the max new token. Next we have the top k. Okay, now what is this sample k top? This is basically the parameter which focuses the LLM's selection on the top k most probable words at each step during the text generation. It is basically like having a short list of the most likely words to choose from. So basically it will have a probable or answer. It will have a probable answers, a set of probable answers. So you define a top k probable answers. So basically, let's say you are setting top k to be 3. This will mean that the LLM will only consider the top 3 most probable words or top 3 most probable answers for the next word in the sequence based on the correct context which you have provided. So this will basically lead to a more predictable answer, more focused output, but it will also limit the creativity of the LLM. So if you want to get some different answers, more creative answers, then you will have to set the sample k-top to a higher value so that you have more number of options to pick from and not a very specific answer. But if you want it to be very specific or focused, then you need to give a low sample top k value. Okay, so let's say I'm asking what is the capital of France, then there is only one answer. So I will set sample k-top as 1. Okay, but if let's say I wanted to generate a poetry or I wanted to write a story, then I will say sample k-top to be say something like 200 or 400 or 50 or 60, so that I have more random answers generated. I have more random or more variety or more creativity in the answers which are being generated. Okay, now next we have the sample top p. This sample top p is the parameter which focuses the LLM selection on the most probable words that cumulatively add up to a certain probability threshold p. Okay, now imagine it like a probability pie chart. You define a minimum slice size p. Okay, and the LLM only picks words that fall within that slice. So basically you give a probability, say cumulative probability of 5%. So it will pick an answer from the top 5% of the entire answer base. Okay, so that is basically your top p, the probability. That is basically you wanted to pick from the cumulative probability of top 5%. Okay, next we have the temperature. So this parameter acts like a heat dial which controls the randomness of the LLM's word selection process. Okay, now a temperature of 1 reflects the original probability distribution from the model. Okay, and higher temperature, basically any temperature greater than 1, will increase the randomness, making the LLM more likely to explore less probable but potentially creative words. Okay, so you will basically get a more creative answer, more random answer if you set the temperature higher than 1. But if you set the temperature less than 1, then you will have some less randomness in the answer. So it will basically stick to the most probable words. So it will give a more predictable and focused output. So basically if you want a very focused answer, then you set low temperature, keep the top p low, keep the top k as a lower value. If you want more random answers, more creativity, more out of the box things, then you keep higher top k, higher top p, right, and higher temperature, right? So these are the configurations which we have in case of LLMs, right?